Уважаемые дамы и господа,
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, information agencies representatives,
позвольте мне по поручению моих коллег,
allow me,
лидеров стран-членов,
as I've been entrusted by my colleagues from the BRICS countries,
работы.
to make a short press statement based on the outcomes of our work.
Была чрезвычайно
The agenda of the
насыщенной
BRICS
и
summit
содержательной.
has been very substantial,
Впрямую отражает
and
многоплановость и
it has been directly reflected
в рамках пятерки.
in our cooperation within the BRICS format.
Беседа с руководством профсоюзов
In the
стран
morning,
BRICS,
we had a conversation with the heads of the trade unions of BRICS
совершенствование
countries.
социальной защиты и
We
повышение
shared our
занятости,
opinions related to ways
отметили важность
to improve the social
сложения
protection
усилий
system
государства, профсоюзных организаций и
creating jobs.
работодателей для
We
оптимизации
emphasized the
регулирования
importance
рынка труда,
of summing up the efforts of the state, trade union organizations and employers in order to optimize the labor market regulation and to ensure the rights and interests of the workers. Then, the heads of states and governments of the BRICS countries had a meeting with the representatives of the BRICS Business Council. The representatives of the Business Council discussed the results of the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, where the BRICS Business Summit was organized in the margins. They presented their propositions in the area of trade, investments and technologies. The key event on the agenda were the negotiations of the leaders of BRICS countries in the narrow format, in the expanded format, that were traditionally held in a very friendly and constructive atmosphere. We discussed in detail all the range of issues related to cooperation within our group. We adopted UFA Declaration and UFA Action Plan that contain very promising goals for the next year and for the long-term prospect. We also focused during our narrow format meeting on the issues in global and regional agenda. UFA Summit is hosted in the year when we celebrate the 70th anniversary of the end of the Second World War and the establishment of the United Nations. Those dates remind the international community of the necessity to take joint efforts in order to ensure peace, stability and security. We also have to keep in mind how important it is to maintain the central role of the United Nations, to respect the norms of the international law, the principles of sovereignty and non-interference into the country's domestic affairs. The leaders of the countries agreed to further coordinate the issues related to our foreign policies. Our countries will continue cooperation in the United Nations and in its specialized and regional structures, as well as in other big multilateral organizations and fora. We are going to counteract the threats of terrorism and extremism together. We will ensure that there is no invigoration of the Nazi ideology. We will work together in order to counter drug trafficking and piracy. We will also address the issues of information security, including in the Internet. We discussed in detail the situation in global economy. We are very concerned with the market instability, high volatility of prices for energy resources and commodities, as well as big sovereign debts of a number of big countries. All those structural disbalances are directly influencing the dynamics of growth of our economies. Against this background, BRICS countries are going to intensely engage our own internal resources of development. The Russian presidency suggested that we should further coordinate macroeconomic policies of BRICS countries. The partners have supported our propositions aimed at building up mutual trade and capital exchanges. Those suggestions were reflected in the strategy, in the BRICS strategy for economic partnership up to 2020 that has been adopted. The five will definitely continue to coordinate our approaches in G20. During the forthcoming G20 summit in Turkey, we are planning to organize a traditional meeting of BRICS leaders in the margins. We are going to support China's presidency in the G20 in 2016. We will actively promote the reform of the international financial and economic architecture. We are going to strive for expanding the role of emerging economies in the IMF governing bodies. At that, within BRICS, we are creating our own structure of financial organizations. During our meeting in the expanded format, we welcomed the completion of the process of establishment of the new development bank and the contingent reserves arrangement that have the cumulative volume of resources that amounts to $200 billion. They will come to the full capacity in the near future. The new bank, in particular, will deal with giving loans for the joint large-scale programs in transport and energy infrastructure, industrial development. We are planning to work out the roadmap of investment cooperation within BRICS by the end of the current year. BRICS leaders have supported the efforts of the Russian presidency aimed at expanding the humanitarian dimension of our cooperation. Intensification of our contacts between our countries will be definitely facilitated by our agreement on cooperation in culture. In order to build up our exchanges in the area of education and science, we are going to establish BRICS Network University. We hope that the Civil Forum, the Parliamentary Forum, and the Youth Forums of BRICS that held their first meetings this year will become a tradition within our forum. The events within BRICS have not come to an end yet. We are still going to participate in the outreach meeting where the Shanghai Cooperation Organizations, member states and observers are going to participate, as well as the members of the Eurasian Economic Union. This joint session will continue the practice that we started in South Africa. 2 years ago in South Africa, we discussed BRICS ties with African countries, and a year ago in Brazil, we discussed the prospects of cooperation with Latin American countries. And today we are going to speak on expanding cooperation in the huge territory of Eurasia. In conclusion, I'd like to emphasize that we all worked here in UFA in order to intensify the multilateral cooperation within BRICS. Our association will continue to further contribute to ensuring international security and global growth, to addressing the key issues of our modernity. Thank you.